Hi, this is Julie with Beadaholique, and today I want to show you how to do a European 4-in-1 chainmail. Here is the bracelet, which we're going to be doing today. You can see I've actually added some decorative little stardust sparkle silver plated beads just to add a little bit of a decorative element to it. But before we begin this bracelet, I want to show you a couple other examples of European 4-in-1. All of these are the same exact stitch, just done with a different gauge of jump ring, and also of course a different color. So it shows you've got a lot of variety of what you can do with the European 4-in-1, and you can make it as wide or as thin as you like. But for this video here, we're going to be making this brass one right here. Artistic Wire puts out these books, Basics of Chainmail and Advanced Chainmail, and they have great instructions on how to do various weaves with pictures which show you exactly what to do. These can be very handy, and they're coordinated too to the Artistic Wire chainmail jump rings, which are the jump rings we're going to be using. And you can see on the back of these jump rings they also have some various weaves for you to choose from. Before we begin, I want to go ahead and show you how to read the package. For this particular project, we're going to be using a brass jump ring. If you're just starting out with chainmail, I do suggest you start with a less expensive metal such as brass instead of sterling silver, just until you get the hang of it. I also am going to start with a 20 gauge jump ring. It's a little bit easier than an 18 gauge just for the opening and the closing and the workability. You'll be a little bit happier with how it goes to begin with until you get used to it. You'll notice on the package that it says ID 9/64 of an inch. ID stands for inner diameter. That is the diameter of the interior space of the jump ring, which is 3.57 millimeters, and there's 140 pieces in this bag. When you're doing chainmail, you're going to see the term aspect ratio come up quite a bit. Aspect ratio is a ratio which you can get to by taking the inner diameter of the ring and dividing it by the wire diameter. If you go to the Beadaholique website and you look under techniques and guides, there's actually a wire gauge chart which shows wire diameter. And that's important because when you're getting into more complicated weaves, it's going to ask you for a specific wire diameter to let you know if you can actually do a particular weave with a particular jump ring. Sometimes a jump ring can actually just be too tiny to link all the different rings together that you need. So if you flip over an Artistic Wire jump ring pack, you're going to see 8 different weaves on all the packages. This is really handy because they actually tell you which jump ring you're going to need. You'll notice the Byzantine here says that if you're doing a 20 gauge, you need 7/64 of an inch. If you're doing 18 gauge, you need 9/64 of an inch. And then more importantly as well, if you're actually going to do a weave that has multiple size jump rings, it actually is going to give you both of the jump rings you need. So that's really handy. It takes some of the guesswork out of it for you. So you're going to want to gather your jump rings, and it's going to take 2 packs to do this particular project, which is 220 jump rings. And you're going to need some tools. You're going to need several pairs of pliers. You're going to want to find which ones you're most comfortable with. I have a couple pair of chain nose pliers here. I also have a bent nose plier. Whatever is most comfortable for you for opening jump rings and holding on to them. I personally like to use 2 pairs of chain nose pliers when I work, so that's what I'm going to be using here. And I've actually gone ahead and I've used these already and opened up a bunch of jump rings, and then I've also closed some jump rings as well. When you get your jump rings in the package itself, they're going to look like this. It's really hard to tell, but they're just slightly open. They're not totally open and they're not totally closed. So you're going to want to either open them fully or close them completely. You're also going to need a pair of tweezers. These are not necessary. I just find it helpful to have them. And then I'm also going to recommend that you have a spare piece of scrap wire ready, and I'll show you what to do with that in just a moment. So let's begin, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take 1 open jump ring, and you're going to want to link onto it 5 closed ones. Now I looked at my pattern ahead of time and I saw that I was going to need approximately 2/3 of my jump rings to be closed and about 1/3 to be open. So I went ahead and I did that ahead of time. So after you've linked 5 closed jump rings onto an open one, go ahead and close the jump ring. And now what I want you to do is I want you to lay this down flat, and here's where your tweezers are going to come in handy. When making chainmail, it's real important that the orientation of how the links are lined up is proper. So I don't want this link to be kinked like that. I want this laying flat. You see how these are over, the front ones are actually overlapping the back ones. For the European 4-in-1, it's important that you keep that in that orientation. So again, you don't want it going like that. You want it laying so that they're overlapping. All right, so once I've got that laid out, I'm going to take another open jump ring and I'm going to link onto it 2 more closed jump rings. And now I'm going to go under that bottom right one and under the top right one, making sure I keep them in the same orientation that they were in. And now I'm going to close that jump ring. Now I want to lay this back out again and make sure that all of mine are straight. You won't need to work on the mat for a huge length of time. It just helps when you're first starting. Once you get this going, you're going to be able to forego the mat and be able to hold it in your fingers. Okay, so again, notice how the front ones are overlapping and resting on top of the ones behind them. So we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to take an open jump ring. We're going to link onto it 2 closed jump rings. Now that I've got these on my open ring, I'm going to very carefully lift up my stitching, holding it in place. I've pressed it down with my fingers so it doesn't go anywhere. And go under that bottom one on the right, and then under the top right one. Pull it through and close that jump ring. And what I want to do at this point, you can see that I have my 2 original ones hanging there. I'm going to take that piece of wire, just that scrap wire, and I'm going to thread it through those 2. And I'm going to take it around and I'm just going to kink it. Just going to twist it a little. And basically this is going to be discarded later, but it's just holding your place. It's letting you know if I was to drop this right now, it would let me know where I started and where I ended. So it's just kind of good to have that. So now we're to the point where we can just hold our chainmail in our hand. And so we're just going to keep repeating the process of picking up an open ring, linking onto it 2 closed rings, and then you can go under, and you can work from either side. If it's easier for you to start with the top right one, go under it and then under the bottom right one, or do as we were doing before where you go under the bottom right one and then under the top right one. Because of how they're laid out, it's not going to matter. Just you want to keep double checking though that when you have this, that you've got the top ones laying on top of the ones behind them. That's what you want to keep having going on. So this is what we've got so far. And now what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and continue with that exact same step until you get to your desired length of your bracelet. We've got our length now completed of our first row of our European 4-in-1. I actually just measured this against my wrist to see if it was a length I wanted. You can use a ruler as well. 7.5 to 8 inches is standard size for a bracelet. So I'm going to lay it back down on my beading mat. To begin our second row, go ahead and take off that wire at the end. Don't throw it away. You're going to go ahead and use it again in a few minutes. Make sure all your jump rings are facing the right direction. And we're going to pick up an open jump ring. We're going to link to it 2 closed jump rings. And we're going to take this and we are going to go under the first one and under the second one. Pull it through. Take another pair of pliers, and close your jump ring. We're going to pick up another open jump ring, and this time we're only going to link onto it one closed jump ring, and we're going to link this through that second jump ring, which we linked on to that open jump ring before. Going to pull it through so that's fully linked under. Now the second closed jump ring in your top row, the bottom of your top row, going to link under that, and also the third jump ring. It can be a little tricky, just making sure that you're looking at the right jump rings, and close that jump ring. Okay, I can pick this up at this point, and you can see I'm creating that second row. It is always easier once you can actually pick up your chainmail, but sometimes you do have to work with it on the mat to begin with. So we're going to pick up an open jump ring, link to it a closed jump ring. We're going to go through that hoop on your very bottom row, up through the two adjacent jump rings above it. And we're going to close that jump ring. Again, pick up an open jump ring, link to it a closed jump ring. Where you have that ring, which is just kind of hanging there, go ahead, put the jump ring through it, but go under the jump ring in the row above it and pull through, and then you want to also go under the jump ring next to it and close that jump ring. So I want to show you how this is looking at this point. And you can see you're creating that second row. And what I like to do too is I do like to go back and put my wire through my end. It's a little easier to tell on this one where you started and where you stopped, but still kind of nice to be able to mark it. All right, so you're going to continue all the way along the length of your bracelet until you get to the other end. After you've completed your second row of chainmail, we're going to take a clasp. I've chosen a tube clasp. They're actually very handy for chainmail just because of how they have the multiple rings on the side. And we're going to attach one to each end. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to identify, you've got 3 jump rings on the edge, and I want to take the 2 outer ones. So I'm not going to worry about that middle one. I'm going to take the outer one and I'm going to open it back up. And be careful of the orientation of the jump ring on how it's kinked when you put your clasp on. So you don't want to put your clasp, for instance, this way. You want to make sure that you put it on like such. Close that jump ring back up. And we're going to do that with the other jump ring on the end. Close the jump ring. Remember the way that this clasp works, so it's going to be this part here fitting into there. So when you take this side of the clasp and you put it over here, you want to make sure it's lined up properly. And we're going to attach it to those 2 exterior jump rings, not the middle one. So we have our bracelet complete, and you have a choice right now. For the particular pattern I've chosen, I want to add these decorative stardust embellishments, or you can just leave the bracelet like this. It's totally up to you. So we're going to add our decorative embellishment, and we're going to add them to the middle row. The way we're going to do this is we're going to take our chainmail, and we are going to pick the jump ring that we want to put the bead on. We're going to find the opening to that jump ring, open the jump ring, being very, very, very careful not to let go and not drop this. Go ahead, slide that bead on there. Close the jump ring back up. And now you have a bead on your chainmail. So you can do it at even intervals, you can do them all along one side, however you want to do it. So I'm going to skip a jump ring and I'm going to do it on the next one. So go ahead and continue to add beads for the length of your bracelet or however you wish to arrange them. All right, and here is your complete European 4-in-1 chainmail bracelet with decorative embellishments on it.